Good morning and welcome to a Lou Area Fantasy Sports Network special presentation. I'm your host Josh, and today we've got a tier list for the preseason teams. Rick Bayless and Jonny G are out today, enjoying their vacation before the season starts. They'll be back next Wednesday. Today I'm here with Matthew E. Soul. We've got an interesting show for you today, so stay tuned to see where each fantasy GM stacks up against one another according to Matthew E. Soul.
First of all, Mr. Clifford, I just want to thank you for having me on the show. I got a lot of respect for what you do here, bringing facts and opinions to the fantasy basketball people, and I'm excited to take part in it.
To lay some ground rules, we're going to be going through each fantasy GM based on their final standings in last year's season. Starting out with the current champion, the Highland Howlers. Matthew E., what's your take on the Highland Howlers going into this season?
The Highland Howlers, with the GM, Mr. Girlnick, the league's 21-22 champion, has put together quite the team this year, Joshua. And by that I mean, I've got no idea what he's trying to accomplish here. Now, I like to come correct with facts. And so I've got some of my best people working a lot of different angles here, and I am not getting good results from this team here. He starts off two boys out of Kentucky, Booker and Adebayo. I like what he's doing. He's got a little bit of a path here, but the further down his list he goes, Jalen Brown, Brandon Ingram, Marcus Smart, all good players, yes, all good players, but the fit, there is none. There's no fit with this team. All these people, they're clashing. I don't understand what he's trying to do. Maybe he's confused. He's in a points league. He's lived it in the past. Maybe the championship hangover has been a little too much for him. But if he's not awake yet, he's going to be in for a rude one when this season starts. And so this team right here, which by the way, I will point out, this team right here, it's one of the worst teams in the league in 3 points made, free throw percentage, and steals. That's a true fact. And so they're going to end up with a 5-13 record, and I'm sticking them in the D tier.
Wow, the D tier for the Highland Howlers. It's not looking good for the reigning champion. Next up, the runner up last year, the Waiver Ravers. Matthew E., what have you got to say about the Waiver Ravers this year?
Listen to me. Mr. Donahue the fifth of the Waiver Ravers, I got a lot of respect for him. Nothing but respect. But this team leaves me with a lot of questions, one of which, probably most importantly, am I supposed to take this team seriously? Because it sure as it doesn't seem like the GM's taking this team seriously. Look at these picks. Scotty Barnes, Shingun, Josh Giddey. What does he think this is? The development league? This is the first year of categories. And this man is taking flyers on second year guys. He's living on a hope and a prayer, and it's going to crash and burn. And Joshua, hold on to your seats because this is going to surprise you. For that reason, I'm giving Mr. Donahue the fifth a last place finish, 1-17 in my F tier.
Wow, that just goes to show that points league success does not always translate to category success. The next GM on our list is the Chicago Celtics. Matthew E., what's your take on the Celtics this year?
I really like what Mr. Kelty's put together here in Chicago. Beautiful city, and this might just be a beautiful team. He's got number one in 3 points, last in field goal percentage. That's a little odd. It's a little odd, I'll give him that. But he's definitely done well to strengthen other categories such as steals, blocks, and turnovers. We're looking at a potential top team with the potential top GM behind it. It's been a little rocky, but as the years gone by, he's gotten better and better, and I got nothing but good things to say about this guy. Put me down. This is going to be a B tier team with a 13-5 record.
Looks like the Windy City is doing something right. The Celtics have landed the first slot in the B tier. Finally, some success from these GMs. The next GM, on our list is the Kentucky Hazard. The Kentucky Hazard has self-claimed the most winningest franchise of all time, Matthew E. What do you think about their roster going into this first year of categories?
Excuse me, Joshua, did you say self-proclaimed? Let the facts show they are the number one winningest team in this league. And that is exactly why I have faith in this GM. This team, across the board, I see multiple good picks late rounds, some potential steals, but the question for this team, as we saw Monday night, is LaMelo Ball going to be healthy turning that ankle? And is the competition going to be too much this year with the target on this team's back? A lot of other people got something to prove to try and tear this team down and make it not seem as though the GM knows what he's doing in categories compared to points. But I think this team will ultimately succeed and make playoffs. Let's put them in the B tier with a 13-5 record as well.
Another GM to the B category. We can kind of see some tiers starting to divide here, some separation in GMs. The next GM on our list is another GM with a title. It also has a claim to perhaps the greatest GM of all time, the Shaq Moves. Matthew E., how do you think the Shaq Moves stack up to these GMs this year?
Look, I'm a close friend with Mr. Helmy. Okay, I talk to him on the regular. I know a little bit about what's going on in his organization, and I got insiders telling me some very interesting things about this team. And most importantly, it is that this guy might not know exactly what he's doing, like he may be leading on. Shaq Moves put together an impressive roster, but taking Chris Middleton in the third round, who's injured for a while, is going to hurt them early on, and I might wonder if it won't be a little too late. People in their camp tell me he might be regretting that pick already, so maybe look out for some trades being thrown around. That's just what I'm hearing. That's just what I'm hearing. Because of that little stumble there in the third round, I'm putting the Shaq Moves at 9-9 and in the C tier.
Wow, the former champ drops all the way down to the C tier. It'll be interesting to see who may bite on the Middleton trade this year. Next up, we've got the Louisville Samurais. The Samurais always tend to be on the outskirts of playoffs, last year making it for the first time in a long time. Matthew E., where do you think the Samurais are going to end up at the end of this season? Will they be a successful team, or will they fall into a slump with this new change to categories?
Joshua, I just let out a sigh there. And you want to know why? Do you want to know why?
Tell me why, Matthew E.
I got nothing but respect for this fan base of these samurais because year after year they have promised change to this poor fan base. Year after year, and every year they have the wool pulled over their eyes. This man's out here drafting 10 guards. I don't get it. I don't get it anymore. I'm done. I'm fed up. I can't do it anymore. It's too much of an emotional roller coaster. I'm tired. I'm tired for the fan base, and I got nothing but respect for the fans. Nothing but respect. But I feel for them. This team better find its footing fast, or it's going to be in a bad situation. They didn't take a center till the final round. Because of that, I'm sticking them in the D tier with a 3-15 record.
And it looks like those Samurais are back to their old habits. Next up, we've got the Dallas Dong Squad. Matthew E., the Dallas Dong Squad have always been a cornerstone franchise of this league. With this change to categories, do you think that they're going to replicate their success, or do you think they're going to replicate their failures from prior seasons?
I'm a big numbers guy, Joshua. Huge numbers guy. And Mr. Gio, he's got the numbers backing him up this year. He's been trustworthy in the past to make good decisions about his team. Although this John Morant pick has me questioning some of those. Keegan Murray pick has me questioning some of those. This Rashawn Holmes pick has me questioning some of those. But nevertheless, we're in a new format. I think he's going to put in the work. And so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him an 11-7 record. I'm sticking him in the B tier. And we'll see what he does with this team.
Well, it looks like it could be a promising season for the Dallas Dong squad. Next up, we've got the Frankfurt Fireballers. Now, this team hasn't won a playoff game since season 1. Matthew E., do you think that they're going to have playoff success this year? How do you think they stack up?
Easiest question you've asked all night, Joshua. Absolutely not. Nothing about this team that has been put together makes me feel any differently from Mr. Brennan. And I've known him a long time. And let me tell you, I've seen him do a lot of stupid things in my life. But this right here might be the stupidest thing he has ever put together. This team is schizophrenic. It belongs in a mental hospital. Russell Westbrook in the eighth round. Oh my goodness. I can't even believe my eyes. I can't even believe that. The desperation Pokuševski pick at the end. Aaron Gordon again for the 4th year. You know what? You know what Einstein said, Joshua? You know what Einstein said?
Tell me.
The very definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. This man has been failing out of the winner's bracket year after year after year and expecting something to change. Nothing's going to change. Tyler Hero in the 4th round sure ain't going to change it. That's why I'm marking the Fireballers down. Mark it right here. He is going to miss playoffs for the first time in his illustrious career. Categories just ain't meant for him. He's going to have an 8-10 record, and I'm putting him in the C tier.
Well, we will see what the Fireballers can come up with this season. Will it be a success? Will it be a failure? We'll let the Fireballers decide. Next up, we've got the Bluegrass Bulldogs. Matthew E., this team had the number 1 pick in Nikola Jokic. Did they turn that into a success, or did they turn that into a flop?
Look, my gut reaction when I saw this team being thrown together after the Gordon Hayward pick and the Michael Porter pick was this was a masterclass in how to squander having the number 1 pick. I tweeted it out at Matthew E. Soul. But the numbers don't lie. And this team seems on paper to be pretty good. Now, GM Mr. Clifford, he's hit or miss. I like the makeup that he has here. He's pretty well balanced in everything. Number 1 in steals right now, which is pretty impressive. Not even sure if he knows that. But I think with the right moves, knowing this guy's pedigree in trades, if he can get the right kind of deals on his table, I think he will end up in the playoff hunt. I'm putting him down at the bottom of B tier, behind Johnny, with an 11-7 record.
I doubt the Bulldogs would have any complaint with that tier ranking. Next up, we've got the Night Shift Ninjas. Now, this team has never had any real success. Do you think that the change to categories has changed that, Matthew E? Or are they going to stick to their old ways of being a bottom feeder scrub team?
No, you said it perfectly, Joshua. This team has never had any real success, and I don't expect that to change this year. Categories is a lot more complicated than points. Numbers on a paper, Duncan can understand, but multiple numbers on a paper, that's yet to be seen. He has a couple impressive categories here that he's pretty good at. Looks like he's number 1 in turnovers actually with this team, and pretty high points, but all 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 indications point to this team being a bottom feeder team, and when you take into account who this GM is, Mr. the younger Mr. Clifford, if you will. I'm going to put this team down at D tier with a 4-14 record.
Wow, 4-14, just barely scraping into the D tier. Duncan has a lot of work to do this season if he wants to improve that rank. Next up, we've got the Atlantis Hospital. Matthew E., this is another team that we've seen struggle time and time again, being dubbed 11th place by the Rick and Jonny G disputed show. Matthew E., do you think that the team that the Atlantis Hospital have drafted is built for success? Are they going to change that narrative this year?
I'm going to be real with you for a second. And you can mark this one down and take this to the bank. This is my sleeper team right here. This is the first draft I've seen out of Mr. Helmy where I think just perhaps he may have an idea of what's going on. Maybe he was meant to be playing categories this whole time. Put together a nice little squad here. And I think he's going to make the moves necessary this season to bolster his team and make it stronger and stronger. And you know why I say that? Anthony Davis ain't on that roster. He's finally moved on. This hospital is going to shut down due to lack of business. And he's going to finish in the top of my C tier with a 10-8 record.
Matthew E., that is a bold prediction that I hope will come true. He just needs to stay out of the crosshairs of his brother, Shaq Moose. Next up on our list, we have Team Last, piloted by Joel. Team Last did not have a very successful season last year, but they are typically a playoff team. Is this switch to categories going to go in favor of Team Last, or are they going to repeat what they did last season?
I wish nothing but the best for Mr. Flygear. And I believe we're going to be able to move on from Team Last this year. He's going to be able to rename that team to Team 15th. Because what he did to this team over the course of this draft was criminal. This team, like Chase, was a first half team. First half of this draft, I thought went perfectly. He had an idea of where it was going, and then he picked James Wiseman, who won't even play. The man's not going to play. And Paolo Banchero, they've got Wimby on their mind. They're going to shut that man down immediately. I'm sorry to do this. I love him to death. I got nothing but respect for Mr. Flygar and his ability. But year after year, he's trending down. I'm going to put him at 2-16 and in my F tier.
We all hope for the best for Team Last. It'll be interesting to see how he navigates the season starting from such a low rung on the totem pole. Next up, we've got the Shredders. The Shredders are an interesting team. They seem to be either up or down, no in between, no middle of the pack for them. Where do you think they're going to end up this year, Matthew E?
Mr. Hewlett made me take a double take in this draft because I was looking over this team in preparation for this, and I have to say, I don't remember a single one of his picks. He was a total snooze fest this whole draft, and I think that is going to end up ultimately being good for him because he was pretty chalk. He made lots of solid picks, nothing too sexy, nothing too exciting, but it's going to pay off. This man has a great team anchored by Joel Embiid, solid steals, solid field goal percentage, solid turnovers, pretty average, middle of the pack in the rest of the categories. It's going to go a long way. This man's proven he's a good GM in the past. Mr. Hewlett, I commend you on your draft. I'm going to put him with a 14-4 record in our first entry into the A tier.
Finally, a GM has made it into Matthew E's A tier. I didn't know if we would have one. Standards are very high, Mr. Soul. Next up, we've got Team I Am Vengeance. Clearly, by the name, he's got something to prove this season after winning worst trade for his Zion trade last year. Matthew E., is he going to prove anything this year? Does he have what it takes in his roster? How do you think his draft went?
I just want to speak directly to Mr. Purdom right here, if you don't mind, Joshua. Now, clearly, this man is jaded a little bit from the injuries he's experienced in the past. And that's why we have a Giannis Antetokounmpo at number 2 going. But this man in the 3rd round picks Zion Williamson? I thought you were scared of injuries. You got Jared Allen right there. Right there. What are we doing? Purdom. I fear for your team. I fear for your team. On paper, the numbers, you're strong in field goal percentage. Very strong. Best. But the worst in 3-pointers and the worst in free throws. Strong in rebounds, strong in blocks. You're gonna have a lot of easy weeks and a lot of tough weeks. I can't count you out because of that. But you've got me a little bit wondering where your mind's at with this team. But because of the players, the quality of players you do have throughout the draft, and you maintained what you were trying to do, I'm going to give you a 10-8 record and put you in my C tier.
And we will see if I Am Vengeance's team can stay healthy this year or not. It's been a big problem for him. A lot of question marks there. We'll see what happens. Next up, we've got rookie Elijah Donahue, also dubbed Tyrone and Company. Matthew E., this is a new franchise, but it's their first time playing categories, just like the rest of us. Do you think that they drafted well for categories? Did they set themselves up for success? What are your thoughts?
I don't know if it's so much that Mr. Donahue here drafted well for categories, or if it is that all these other GMs drafted so poorly. How the hell did they let this man get LeBron James and Kyrie Irving in the first, at the end of the first and the beginning of the second round? And I'm here to tell you right now, I'm telling you right now, they will regret that. Because this man followed up pick after pick after pick with strong teams. And like you pointed out, this is everyone's first year in categories. So he's just on equal footing as everybody else. And I know I've done a lot of research on this man. I do a lot of research, Joshua. This man was excited to find out if his picks were any good. He likes his picks. And I'm telling you right now, he's got to be the one laughing. This man should be arrested for highway robbery after what we saw with this draft. I heard a rumor. This might be breaking news. I don't know. But I heard a rumor that Chase was helping with his picks in the early round. And based on Chase's draft, I don't believe it. There's no way. Chase wouldn't have made these picks. These are too good. Elijah is going to submit himself. Mr. Donahue is going to submit himself as the best Donahue in this league with a 16-2 record at the top of my A tier.
So a second team breaks into the A tier for Matthew E. Very impressive from the rookie GM. At this point, it almost seems like it's fate that he will win Rookie of the Year, which leads us to our next GM. Team, well, I don't even know if he has a team name yet. Team Shero, the other rookie. How does he stack up to Elijah and the rest of the league?
Look, I got nothing but respect for Mr. Shero, and I think he did an excellent job in this draft. It's hard for anyone in this league to stack up with what Mr. Donahue did in this draft. All right. Now that being said, I like what Mr. Shero put together here for a first-time GM. It seemed like he knew what he was doing. If I had to guess, he did not take any advice from his fellow goons in this league, or else he might have been steered astray. I like the Kawhi Leonard pick a hell of a lot. It's a good first-round pick. A bold first-round pick based on the injuries, but someone who could easily be a top 10 fantasy player. Very good pick. Followed it up with plenty of strong ones. Took some chances at the end with Jabari Smith Jr. and Victor Oladipo. But those are moves that could pay off. I think this is a solid team that with the right moves through the season can compete. That for that reason, I have a hard time hitting them too hard or giving them too much. I'm going to say 9-9 and in the middle of my C tier.
Well, Matthew E., I think this is a great tier list. Super excited to get the season started this year. Can't wait to see what happens with all these teams, all these GMs. Based on your predictions, your tier list rather, it looks like our playoff picture looks a little like this. We've got Elijah or Tyrone and Company at the number 1 seed, the Shredders at the number 2 seed, the Chicago Celtics at the number 3 seed, the Kentucky Hazard at the 4 seed, the Dallas Dong Squad at the 5 seed, the Bluegrass Bulldogs at the 6 seed, the Atlantis Hospital at the 7th seed, and I Am Vengeance at the 8th seed. Matthew E., if you had to have one team as your dark horse playoff candidate, who would it be?
Well, the easiest way to answer that question, Joshua, is probably by eliminating a couple people about who it would not be. It's not going to be Mr. Donahue the Fifth. It's not going to be Mr. Flygar. It's not going to be Mr. Clifford. It's not going to be Mr. Brennan. If I had to say one person who maybe in the end their strategy, despite me giving them a hard time, may pay off if they proceed correctly, Mr. Sanders with his all guard plus Isaiah Jackson makeup. Perhaps he can pull enough other categories in along with his assists to make it and slip in there at that bottom. He's not too far out, so we'll see. I wish him the best of luck. I really do. Those fans deserve it.
The Louisville Samurais do have some of the best fans in all of Blue Area Fantasy indeed. Matthew E., thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate you helping out with this tier list while our boys are gone for their vacation. Can't wait to get the season started. This has been an LAF Sports Network production. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
How much y'all paying me for this?